Okay, having multiple team members take time off at the same time or during peak season can be so detrimental to your aesthetic business. Like, why does everyone have to ask for time off at the same time? Right? When you are having an event, when all your patients want to come in. Okay, I get it. I get it. You want Black Friday off. I get it. You want to spend time with your family during the holidays. I get it. But business still has to take place, right? And it's crucial to ensure smooth operations, even when it comes to time off requests. And there's really a strategic way to go about this so that it's a win-win for everyone, right? So today I'm going to be sharing with you best practices for developing and implementing your time off request policy. This is going to help really streamline operations, but really also foster a positive and understanding workplace culture, right? Because you don't want to create an environment where people end up quitting, right? Or not wanting to work there because they don't feel like you value their home life, right? Or value work-life balance. So it's crucial really to ensure smooth operations, even when it comes to managing time off requests. There's a system that needs to be created around that. So let's unpack why, first and foremost, it's so important to have an effective time off request policy, really to ensure your team's success. So here's why it matters. Now, implementing really a uniform method, right, for all employees to follow will ensure that there's clarity and that it's going to avoid chaos from happening. I was working with a client, and a couple months ago, they had this huge drop in revenue. And I was like, whoa, what happened here? Like, it was drastic, guys. We're talking like $20,000 in 1 week. And what ultimately had happened is all of their injectors, now this is a large practice, all of their injectors took time off, and it dramatically impacted their business. And I asked them, I was like, what's your vacation policy, right? And they had no policy. People just took whenever they wanted off. And again, I understand honoring and trying to accommodate as much as possible, but those types of situations make a huge impact on your business, and you just can't allow something like that to happen. So you have to have, uniformity, consistency, when it comes to vacation requests, right? Because the alternative is no providers on the schedule, which means a loss of revenue that really could mean tens of thousands of dollars against the med spa. And I've seen it time and time again, right? And so here's some best practices that I would like to share with you to prevent that from happening. So first and foremost is that you need to get ahead of this, right? So you want to block off peak times. So you want to be able to maintain like really optimal productivity year round. And in advance, right, that there are going to be some busy periods. You are going to have certain events, certain days and periods of the year that are extremely busy. And so it's okay if you say that this is a no time off request, right? We will not approve time off requests during X period. That's okay. The key is that you tell your team members far enough in advance, right? That it's not something like, well, oh, I already had my family trip booked to Disneyland. I didn't know, right? You have to have those blocked off far in advance. Otherwise, there would be a lot of drama. There can be a lot of drama around saying yes or or saying no, right? And so you need to have clearly defined communication on what time off request process looks like for all team members. And if you make changes or updates to that policy, that's totally your prerogative, right? But you should make sure that you're sharing it, that you share it promptly, and again, that you're consistent across the board. It's also really key that you encourage your team members to give you as much advance notice as possible in order for you to honor and say yes to their request and getting them in that habit. Now, there's certain things that come up, right, that people can't help and they're out of control. Absolutely. Those are different circumstances, but when we're planning vacations and getaways and mental health breaks, right, we can plan those in advance so they are not disruptive to the business, so they're not disruptive to our other team members, and certainly not our patients as well. Also, you just really want to encourage, accountability to the employee to make sure that they are not making last minute requests, not only to the business, but to their team members as well, so that they really take responsibility in being a good team member and a good employee. I also love honoring shift trades, right? Because there are times, right, that things just come up and they can't give you very much far advance notice. So I think that it's great to have a culture where you can count on your team members, ask things of your team members, as long as it doesn't get out of hand and people aren't abusing the situation. So shift trades are great as well. Now, I'm gonna give you some verbiage that I like to use for time off request policy. So make sure you have something to write with, because it's really important that you have verbiage that is documented in writing, right? You're not only gonna verbalize it, you're not only gonna have it in your employee handbook, but you're gonna have it at the very bottom of your time off request form, whether that's good old piece of paper or whether that's a form that they submit online. It's important that you have it clearly documented. So here's some examples of what I like to say, and what we even use for our teams as well. So to increase the likelihood of getting your time off request approved, all time off requests require a minimum 2 months notice and or as much advance notice as possible. Now, the reason why I said 2 months is because in the event they're taking, 3, 5, a week vacation, and then also when we're planning ahead on scheduling team members, right? We need advance notice to make sure that there is proper coverage. Now, some of you may be like 2 months, oh my God, like that's so far in advance, right? And that's why we have in there or as much advance notice as possible, because we understand that things come up, right? And there's things that we can't control. And of course, we're going to do everything possible to honor those requests. But, if you're planning a trip to Hawaii, most people don't plan that, in just willy-nilly, right? Most of the time you plan it in advance. And so you need to be submitting that request, again, as far as notice as possible. And that will give you your best chances of getting that approved. Also, you have to submit requests via either, and again, this is where you have to decide, is it email? Is it a good old school piece of paper that you have a form on? What is your designated form to the direct supervisor? For a request to be approved, the employee must be in good standing and there is appropriate coverage and or planning for duties to be covered. Okay, so 2 things to unpack there. So 1, they are in good standing, right? I'm not going to approve time off if there has been, challenges, whatever they may be. So it's really important that you have that verbiage documented in your policy as well. And then the second part to it is that there is appropriate coverage so that their duties are covered, right? Because we don't want to sacrifice, right, the end goal or the result for the med spa. We don't want to put undue strain on other team members, and we certainly don't want to sacrifice patient experience. So it's so important that you have that verbiage, right? For a request to be approved, the employee must be in good standing and there is appropriate coverage and or planning for duties to be covered while out. So if they're an employee that they can work ahead on some things, that really helps out. But most likely for your aesthetic business, there's not many rules that they can work so far ahead because they're seeing patients, right? Now, it's also important that you communicate what they can expect on the other end, right? So within 2 business days of you submitting your request, your supervisor will inform you if your request is approved or denied, all right? So don't let them have to chase you. Don't make them, have to guess if they are getting it approved or it's going to be denied. You make sure that you respect their time and their request as well, and you get back to them within 2 business days. I think it's also really important that the supervisor really does their best to honor the request if all the terms are met from the employee's end, right? But also that it's important that the team member knows that while you do your best to honor the request, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. And I feel like too often business owners get themselves in a position where they try to be generous to their team, which is wonderful, right? But they're taken advantage of because they haven't set clear expectations. They haven't set boundaries. And they're taking advantage of, and not only does the business, but other team members can suffer as well. So I think that it's absolutely important that the team understands that while you do your best to honor their requests, it's not guaranteed. Approval is not guaranteed. And give them some different examples, right? So one, if the terms aren't met, if you're not in good standing, if there isn't appropriate coverage, right? Then unfortunately, and if we can't trade shifts and make alternatives to have that coverage, then you're probably going to get a no, right? And you got to talk about it before it actually happens. And then give them some examples, right? So if multiple employees request all the same day off and there's not proper coverage available, I'm sorry, but we will not be able to approve your request. And so that's why it's so important that you give us as much advance notice as possible. Okay, well, actually, yeah, I know that I just gave you a mouthful, so let me help you out. If you want me to send you that verbiage that I just went over and instead of having to try to scribble that out, if you want my, time off request policy verbiage that you can customize to meet your needs, just comment the word off, and we'll make sure that you get that verbiage that you can implement. But not only having the verbiage, right? The key really is to assess the impact, right, of multiple time off requests. Assess that, what that's going to do to your business, what that's going to do to your team. And so try to get ahead of it during those peak times, right? And block those off as a no time off time. And do your best to offer alternatives, right, with shift trading if needed. And then at the end of the day, you are going to have to consider denying requests if it jeopardizes the team or the business. Because it's just important that everyone understands that not all requests time off can be approved, unfortunately, right? But here is the best practices to set your team up for success for that you can come and from a point of yes and approving their request, because I know you want that. We all want that for our team, but it can't compromise business at the end of the day. So if you implement a well thought out and communicated time off policy, it's going to help streamline your operations. And not only is that going to foster a better, positive, and understanding workplace environment, you're not going to be sacrificing revenue for the med spa. You're not going to be sacrificing patient experience. So it's so important. It seems so little and so minute, but It's rare that I talk to a business owner that has any kind of a decent sized team that hasn't run into this situation where we've had multiple people request time off, and it's impacted business. So get ahead of it and implement a really sound time off request policy. So if you comment off, we would love to send you the verbiage of the for terms and policies of requesting time off, and really set you and yourself up for success. So thanks, Phoenix Region. Thanks for joining me live. Thanks, Glow. Lots of new people that I'm seeing on live. If you have any questions, or if you have any ideas or topics that you'd like me to cover in my weekly live that I do here, make sure that you DM or send a comment, and I'd love to get that in the mix. So, all right. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, Dr. Pickens. Thank you so much for joining us live here. Hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving. If you loved this training, make sure that you share it with your team or another med spa that could benefit. You can catch the replay on my YouTube channel, and to get access to more free trainings that's going to help your aesthetic business grow, make sure that you visit my link tree in my social bio and join me every Wednesday. Same time, same place. I don't skip a Wednesday, guys. 2:30 Central Time. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Bye, guys.